Welcome. Okay, we're going to do something a little different today. We're going to take just one single page of a 2,000-year-old text and really watch it unfold. We'll see how, layer by layer, it transforms this simple rule about food into this profound debate on identity, intent, and, you won't believe it, tolerance.
It really all comes down to this one question. We're about to go on a journey from something totally mundane, a piece of meat, to something pretty magnificent. We'll get to explore how ancient scholars use these really precise legal arguments to, believe it or not, build a more inclusive world. And the whole thing hinges on one key term. And that word is neveilah. Now this just means an animal carcass that isn't kosher. Why? Because it wasn't slaughtered according to Jewish law. That's it. It's not necessarily some sinister, impure thing. It's really just a technical category that means the meat is inedible for a Jew. So with that in our back pocket, let's look at our starting point.
So this right here, this is the Mishnah. It's the foundational legal ruling that we're going to unpack. Now, on the surface, it seems pretty straightforward, right? Slaughter by a non-Jew makes the meat neveilah. Simple enough. But, true to form, as soon as this rule is stated, the rabbis in the Talmud, they immediately start poking at it, trying to find its limits.
And this is the first really crucial question. Okay, fine, a Jew can't eat the meat. But is it something more? Is it so forbidden that you can't get any benefit from it at all? Could you sell it for dog food? Or use the hide for leather? This distinction, as you're about to see, is everything.
So the Talmud points out something absolutely brilliant here. The Mishnah's choice of words, it's totally deliberate. By calling the meat neveilah, it's picking the less severe category. See, if the idea was for the meat to be completely off limits, the ruling would have to suggest that the slaughter was actually an act of idol worship. So right from the get-go, the Mishnah is making a default assumption. A Gentile standard act of slaughter is not for an idol. But that immediately brings up another, much more complicated question.
Right. What about this category? The min, which is often translated as a heretic, is someone whose actions are seen with way more suspicion. This isn't just an outsider. This is viewed as an intentional ideological opponent. And when a min gets involved, well, the entire calculation changes.
This slide just lays it out perfectly. A regular Gentile slaughter, the meat is simply neveilah, inedible. But a heretic slaughter, whoa, that is automatically assumed to be an act of idol worship, which makes the meat forbidden for any benefit. All of a sudden, the identity and the presumed intention of the person holding the knife, it's absolutely paramount.
And believe me, this was not some minor legal detail. Getting labeled a heretic carried some really severe consequences. Their bread, their wine, even their own sacred writings were all considered problematic. Some sages even cast doubt on the very legitimacy of their children. This was a category designed to create serious social and religious boundaries, which leads the Talmud to a huge, logical problem.
This is exactly what the Talmud asks next. If the consequences are so dire, why does the Mishnah just assume that the average Gentile isn't a heretic? Shouldn't we be worried about this possibility every single time? Well, the answer the Talmud gives is completely unexpected.
Just let that sink in for a second. There are no heretics among the nations of the world. This is a stunning, totally counterintuitive, and frankly, a factually questionable claim. It seems to fly in the face of reality, right? And the Talmud immediately says what we're all thinking. Wait a minute, we can literally see that there are non-Jewish heretics. So what in the world is going on here? Is this just wishful thinking? No, it's a brilliant legal principle in disguise.
The Talmud explains that this isn't a statement about demographics, it's a statement about legal principle. The rule operates based on the majority. The idea is, since the vast majority of non-Jews aren't actively and intentionally worshiping idols, the largest assumes any random person is part of that harmless majority. Their worship gets reframed as ancestral custom, something they do because their parents did it, not out of some deep heretical belief. This legal fiction just neutralizes the whole concern.
But this is where the entire discussion pivots. Why even create such a strange and complex legal workaround? What is the ultimate point of declaring that there are no heretics among the nations? The Talmud isn't happy with just a theoretical answer. It needs to find the real-world application. And it gets to the answer through a process of elimination. Is this whole rule really just about slaughter? No, other laws take care of that. Is it about whether you can punish them? Nah, that's not the core issue either. The Talmud concludes that the real reason for this entire legal framework is something so much more profound. It's about accepting their offerings in the temple.
And here we are, the stunning conclusion. The legal system actually ends up setting a higher bar for insiders than for outsiders. An offering from a Jewish person who's a transgressor, it might get rejected. But because of this principle that there are no heretics among the nations, an offering's accepted from any Gentile, no questions asked. The rule isn't about exclusion. Its ultimate purpose is radical inclusion.
And they're not just pulling this out of thin air, it's grounded in a specific reading of a verse from Leviticus. The doubling of the phrase any man, is interpreted to expand the category, explicitly including Gentiles in the temple service. Now, with that incredible conclusion in our heads, the Talmud does something amazing. It circles all the way back to the beginning of our Mishnah, to a few words that seemed completely obvious.
Remember the last few words of our original Mishnah? It said the carcass imparts impurity by carrying. The Talmud's reaction is basically, well, duh. Every single neveilah carcass does that. So why would the Mishnah state something so obvious? The answer, of course, is that it's not stating the obvious. It's making a very subtle comparison. So the Sage Rab offers two competing interpretations. View number one says the Mishnah is making a distinction. This meat makes you impure if you carry it, but meat from an idol offering is even worse. It can make you impure just by being under the same roof. Then, view 2 says the opposite. The Mishnah is saying this meat is exactly the same as an idol offering, and that neither of them carries that more severe, under a roof kind of impurity. So where does this whole debate about impurity under a roof even come from? A verse in Psalms. One sage argues that since the verse links idol offerings to the dead, they must carry the same severe impurity as a human corpse. But other sages, they disagree. So that final seemingly obvious phrase in our Mishnah is actually a super subtle way of taking a side in this much deeper debate. And there you have it. We started with a simple food law. And just by relentlessly asking why, making these fine-grained distinctions, and always searching for the ultimate purpose, we ended up journeying through this deep discussion about intent, identity, and most surprisingly, a legal mechanism for radical inclusion built right into the heart of the ancient temple.
So what's the big takeaway here? You know, we often think of religious law as a tool for separation, for building walls. But this ancient text shows us something else entirely. It reveals a legal mind that was just as interested in building bridges, using the finest points of the law to create these unexpected pathways for connection. And that really leaves us with a question to think about. What does it mean when law builds bridges, not just walls?